Uh, John, would you like to just say something quickly so I can check if it actually goes to you when you start speaking?
Good evening, everyone.
Brilliant. That's what I wanted to see. Thank you. Okay, that is all good. Hi, Rabia. Hi, Rakia. Assalamu alaikum. If you are coming in from different channels, can you just check if YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook channels are working for all of you? And can you hear us? I know you can hear probably the music at the moment because we're just checking everything. Can you hear us now? Just confirm in your comments if you can hear us so we can then move ahead.
Recording stopped.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, brilliant. So we're not going to take any extra minute. We'll start now. I'm just looking at my screen on LinkedIn just to see if I'm actually live there as well. Yes, I can see myself there. Brilliant. That's perfect. Okay, we're ready to go. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. Have you ever said something in anger and wished you could stuff the words back into your mouth, or fired off an email at midnight only to wake up the next morning regretting every line? That's the cost of poor self-regulation. And let me tell you this, no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how smart your strategy is, if you can't regulate your emotions, your brilliance will eventually turn toxic. Welcome back to Unboxed with SG. Last time we tore open the box of self awareness. Today we step into its dangerous twin. That's what I want to call it, self regulation. This is where leaders are built or broken, not in the moments you plan for, but in the moments that you actually didn't plan. And I'm not alone. Our very favorite guest, John Barry, is back in the living room with me. And this, I remind you again, this is not an interview, it's not a script, just two leaders with the coffee on the table and pure reflection. Because self awareness without self regulation, that's like spotting the fire and then pouring gasoline on it. That's how I feel. I have to hear what John thinks about it. Before we dive in, let's be clear, self regulation isn't emotional suppression. Many people mix it up. It's not emotional suppression, it's emotional intelligence in motion. It's the ability to experience emotion fully but respond intentionally. It's what allows a leader to stay grounded when the world is shaking. Self regulation is what separates confident leaders from reactive ones, the ones who think, decide, and act with precision instead of panic. And in leadership, that difference isn't small, it's actually everything. So, the very first thing that we are unboxed today uh, on this session, which is all about self regulation, it's The very first thing is emotional triggers and the pause. Self regulation lives in the 2 seconds before you open your mouth, 2 seconds that decide whether you lead or destroy. I'll be real, I once nearly exploded in a boardroom. Everything in me wanted to slam the table, but I forced myself to breathe, sip my water, and in those 2 seconds, I saved myself from saying something that would have haunted me or costed me my job, perhaps. So, John, how are you? And have you had those moments? Uh, let's have a reflection.
Fine, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm really enjoying this. Hello to everyone that's out there that's listening to this. You just really made me smile when you said that if we ever had any of those moments. And actually, I have a question for you. When you said you were ready to blow up in that board meeting, you knew what the response might have been towards you.
Mm.
But how do you think the people at that table would have felt if you weren't able to hold it together?
If I wasn't,
Yeah, if you
oh,
were not able to put it together,
well,
what kind of reaction do you think that would have been for them?
in that moment when I was, taking a pause and, sipping my water, in that moment, I thought if I blast off and if I give this response, I felt response um, it wasn't how should I say, logical. I felt I was driven by emotions. So I felt that my response would have been very, very emotional, and this would position me in front of the room as a weak leader or as a leader who is irrational, not logical, and perhaps uh, how else I should say, perhaps somebody who they cannot trust with the teams. So this is how I thought that my impression would be. Plus, I didn't think that giving the feedback that I wanted to blast off or I wanted to give in that emotional moment, I didn't feel it would bring me back any positivity or any solution to the problem that I was trying to highlight. That's how I felt it could have been. And that's the reason why I had to step back and rethink, is it really necessary? Like, what am I winning? What am I gaining out of it? Nothing, to be honest. So I had to stop and I had to take that moment. But it isn't that I didn't have those moments. There were moments when I actually did blast off. And what did I gain? Nothing. I didn't gain anything out of it.
In those moments that you said, and you already brought it up, the number one thing you can lose is trust with your team
Mm.
and the other leaders that are at that table. Not only that, you also lose credibility. And it's really hard. When you lose credibility with your team, it's actually very difficult to get it back.
True.
Because when you're up there as an emotional intelligent leader, you're presenting to people that whatever comes up, you're going to be able to handle it without having an emotional reaction. That you'll, as you said, the 2 or 3 second pause can mean everything in how you react. And when you're able to do that, building trust, building credibility, you're also building something that's really super important as well, a psychological safety for
Mm.
people,
Mm.
where your team is not afraid to give their opinion, to be able to disagree without
True.
thinking that their leader is going to come down hard on them. So it's
True.
very important, as you said, is how we react. Because if we lose that trust and we overreact to a situation that we still didn't sit there and think to ourselves, taking that 2 or 3 second pause, what do I want out of this?
Mm.
What's the ultimate goal here for me? How is my future self going to look right now if
Right.
I blast off at people?
Mm. Um, I think we have lost your voice, if I'm not wrong. Or have you stopped
Hello?
talking?
I just
You
stopped.
just stopped talking. Okay. No, I wasn't sure because remember, John, I told you that in order to read the comments, I always leave my other screen on the phone open because that's where I'm reading all the comments from the different lives that we are running right now. So that's where I couldn't hear you, and I thought maybe there is a technical issue. I just wanted to rectify. So I hope that everybody can still hear us. John, you're absolutely right, and that's exactly why I use the pause, plan, proceed framework. And when I say framework, it feels like maybe it's a very, technical way of doing it. It isn't. It's just as simple as I said earlier. You take a pause, and then you plan within the next 2 3 seconds what you are going to say, how you want to position yourself in the room. Now, it doesn't have to be the room full of your board members or your bosses. It could be the room where your teams are present. So you want to pause, and you want to rethink, which is the planning part. Pause, plan how you want to project yourself, how you want to position yourself in front of your teams, and then proceed. Once I've seen that, once we have taken the pause, take a micro timeout, don't speak, shift your attention to to your breath or your surroundings. And when you rethink and when you plan again, ask, what's my purpose right now? To win or to connect? I'm sure that a wise leader would never want to win. A wise leader is always going to prefer connecting with people over winning the dialogue. And then within the next 3 4 seconds, you proceed. Speak only when the emotion and the goal are aligned. You can literally train this with what I call a trigger tracker. Remember last time? Write down 3 common situations that make you react: a late report, a dismissive tone, a missed target, and rehearse your pause plan proceed response before you ever face them again. That's regulation in real time. So that's what I remember I did, and I will obviously highly recommend that strategy or that tool. I wouldn't call it a strategy, it's a tool. And when you practice these tools many times, you actually remember, every time something like that happens, you always remember, oh, I can actually do that. And then it becomes your habit. Just like when you see a signal, or when you see a traffic light, or sorry, a speeding camera on the road, you just automatically, it becomes your habit, and you automatically put your shift your foot from speed to brake, because you know that it's a speeding camera and you have to slow down a little bit. So it just becomes your habit automatically. And that's what the aspiring new leaders can actually do. The second thing that we are going to unpack for the self regulation is stress management without collateral damage. What is collateral damage, and how do we do stress management? But before that, let me wear my glasses because I want to see some comments, and I would love to read them, because last time we thoroughly enjoyed reading your questions and your comments. So just give me 1 second, and let's see what is on the screen. So here we have, let me show it on the screen as well so everybody can see. Um, okay, John, I think you would like to hear that. Some people are saying here. Rafia is saying last time session was so informative. Thank you so much, Rafia. Then there is I think it's Mr. Ibrahim. Yes, Ibrahim, welcome to our live. And it's his first time, I think he's joining. And then we have Miraman, rightly said, you are here, or I'm so happy that you are here. These are the people I already know. And then, oh, yes. So I still have feedback for the last session, the people who have come back, John. That was so inspiring. This was a very inspiring discussion between Ma'am Seher and Sir John. So we are receiving all of these good comments right here. So thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate your comments, and we would hope that you take some tools away from today's discussion as well. And remember, this is not a lecture. Um, this is not an interview. This is reflection. This is what we have lived. This is what John has lived, I have lived, and we have grown out of that emotional phase of leadership. And trust me, it's very natural. It happens when you start leadership journey. It always happens, and I've seen people going through this as well, that the initial phase of your leadership journey is always where you want to win every dialogue. You want to prove that you are right, always right, because you're the leader, you're the boss. But that's not what you are That's not what real leadership looks like, and that's why we are now looking at stress management and the collateral damage, and see how we can control that. Okay, so yes, thank you so much, everyone. Here is the hidden danger. Stress doesn't vanish, it transfers. And if a leader doesn't regulate stress, the whole team ends up paying the bill. John, have you seen this play out?
Absolutely. One of the things I want to talk about before we talk about the damage is, no, actually, I should talk about the damage first before the corrections. So, in regards to the damage, yes, I have, and I've seen actual leaders that have had to leave their positions. They were demoted because of how the team felt after it was the worst thing a leader can do. And honestly, we don't even have to be talking about this. Doesn't even have to be the office environment, the corporation environment. It could be your personal relationships. The moment you immediately make an emotional decision without taking that pause, which we should be doing in every part of our lives, we can literally ruin a relationship. Because we're not taking the time to think, as you said. And in personal relationships, I've seen people go apart because they didn't have time to take that discussion, to take in what actually happened. And yes, we all know in relationships, your first thing is emotional reaction without taking the time to think of the argument, what was said, because there's too many hurt feelings going on first. But when we take the time to react personally or professionally, one of the things I always like to talk about is the example that we're setting. And the term that I'm sure we are both familiar with is mirroring. And when we do that, when we're in an office environment, when we're standing in front of our team, and all of a sudden during the meeting something happens that a big problem that could immediately response could, your team will be looking for you as this isn't going to be good. They're going to take this bad. But you stay calm. You take the 2 or 3 second pause. Okay, this is what happened. I think we need to do this next. So and so, you need to be assigned here, and you start assigning people to get the job done. And not only are they looking at you as the psychological safety net, but they're also looking at you as, I'm going to stay here. This company just was able to retain me by, I've got a solid leader here, and I want to go where this person's headed. And people pay attention to that. I pay attention every time while the people that I work with, ones that I know that are really solid leaders that can help the team get to the next level, and ones that can't.
True. John, I have a comment here from Annie, and she's saying leaders' job is always to guide and motivate them, which can't be which can't be achieved by force. And I think she's basically saying what you just said. Where you said that people have to trust their leader, and when they see that you know what you are doing and how you're regulating your emotions, and coming across as a strong leader, as a wise leader, then obviously they automatically take the lead, and they automatically start following their leader. So yes, that is correct, Annie. And Rafia is now saying she wants to know about stress management, because stress is real. um, how do we make sure that, because we said you talked about collateral damage already, she's specifically interested in stress management, because many times when people are stressed, no matter how wise, how brilliant they are, it just reflects. They are not able to hide it. So what's your take on that, John? What are the tools or tips that you can actually suggest to them?
Stress management, look, we all deal with stress in different ways. And there is times if you're at work, something that happens that's really emotional, take time to do that reset. Go take a walk. Take a walk around the building. Something that someone told me to do a couple of years ago, and I found myself for the last couple of years doing it more and more, is I journal each day. And first time I did it, I thought to myself, okay, this isn't really going to get me anywhere. I'm going to still feel the same. But as I sat down there writing about my thoughts, what I felt about during the day, all of a sudden I sat there when I was done and I was looking around going, I actually feel pretty good. So it's journaling, it's being mindful of what happened, showing mindfulness to people. And it's stuff that, you know, you don't have to look it up, not in the book. Also, exercise. Take the time. And if you're not taking care of not just, you know, your emotional state, you have to be taking care of your physical state as well. And when you're using getting up, moving around, that's exercise. And you're taking that extra pressure off you. So there's a number of different things you can do, as I said, that will help you and help relieve the stress. But if it's something that, you know, you need to stop at that moment, then take a break if you need to. Get up and leave the room. It's the smartest thing you can do, not only just for the people in that room, but for yourself.
Absolutely. Agreed. John, there is another comment, and I have to read it for you. Shahbaz is saying your guest is very wise and gives very in-depth answers, explains it beautifully. So, Pat, you need to know that people are admiring your advice and your tools and tips, and I'm loving it thoroughly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shahbaz. Um, okay, so let's move to something that I thought that I could share. I call something, just like I told you, there is, pause, uh, and think about it, rethink, and then proceed. That's the first thing that I told you in the previous segment. Right now, the second thing, when we are talking about stress management, for Rafia especially, because she did ask that, and John has beautifully explained that. But there's something that I've been doing. Maybe it's just a different name of the same thing. Really, it's the same thing, to be honest. But I call it stress audit system. And I know it sounds fancy, but it's exactly what how John mentioned it. He basically took you through the situation, and he's basically telling you how we handle our own stress, how we look at stress. And I'm going to just share my tip with you. I usually think about, or I should say, not think about, I try to identify these things. What is controllable? What is it that I can actually control? What is influenceable? And what is unchangeable? These are the three things I always think about. So how do you take these pieces together and use the information you have collected? First, what is controllable? Second, what is influenceable? Third, what is unchangeable? You act on the controllables, you communicate the influenceables, and you consciously release the unchangeables. So you let go of unchangeable things you can't change. You communicate the influences, things that can motivate, things can get attention, and you act on the controllables. What is it that you can control? You take action there. This will take your stress away, because most of the time, like for me, I'm stressed when the things are not under my control, when I lose control. And I have now learned this after such a long time, uh, and made it my habit now, that I need to look at controllables, I have to look at influenceables, factors, and I have to look at unchangeable. So what I can't change, let go. What I can change and have an impact on, that is influenceable. And I have to communicate. I have to have communication there. And what can be still controlled is where I have to take an action. Okay. So that would help you with your stress management. You can also pair it with micro recovery method, short schedule decompressions during the day, a 5 minutes walk without your phone. Please leave your phone on your table. Many people take their phone with them on that 5 minutes walk in the office. It's not going to help because your brain is still busy. So leave your phone on the table and take a walk. Then come back. You will feel refreshed and you will feel that you are out of that stress moment. A music reset, sometimes in my office, wherever I can control and I can have a little bit of music played just for a little while. I actually do that. Or even structured journaling using the prompt. And I know this feels very heavy these days that people don't want to write journals. Don't write journals. Talk to your journal. Now there are apps. Now even with your computer, you can talk and get it dictated. You can even talk to Chat GPT to record something that you are facing or feeling right now and use it as a buddy or as a coach. There is another, if you go to Chat GPT, and there is a tab on your left hand side that says explore Chat GPTs, because Chat GPT is not just one style Chat GPT, there are so many other. You look for Mia, MIA, Mia. Mia is actually a psychologist. So a counselor, a coach, a therapist. So when you talk to Mia, it actually gives you some very quick stress busters, and I think you should try that as well. So there are free tools that are available for you. Why you have to still sit and, you know, be sad about what is stressing you out? I think now there are so many tools available in the market on internet that you can easily use, but have a tool dedicated to yourself and then use it consistently. Consistency is the point here, basically, because leadership isn't about being stress free. When you are a leader, you'll always have stress. Sometimes it is about people who are quitting without serving any notice. Sometimes you're not getting the right kind of employee to replace that person. Sometimes it's your budget or your financial situation, because you feel that you won't be able to pay salary of your employees because your business is not really making enough money. So you see, you'll always be stressed. There is never going to be a point in your business or in your leadership position where you are stress free. So you have to have these tools handy. Okay, I hope that John and I gave you enough tools and tips to take with you uh, to back to your workplace and try to use, and don't keep changing strategies or tools. Give yourself at least 20 days to see the impact of those tools. If you're doing those every day, only then they'll become habit. Once they become habit, only then you'll see the results. So, but if you're changing the tools every day, that's not going to help you. So stick to one tool, see if it is helping you. If not, after 20 days, then change. Okay. The next thing that John and I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to self-regulation, impulse and discipline. Those are two very important factors. Okay. So we have to see how we have to place impulse in self-regulation and what is the role of discipline. Okay, let's talk about impulse first. The unregulated leader makes decisions in the heat of ego. We did talk about ego last time, remember? The regulated leader plays the long game. Okay, I've made impulsive calls before, chasing speed instead of wisdom, and it cost me more than slowing down ever would. John, how about you?
That's a perfect question. An impulsive leader is the leader that you don't want to follow because they are someone that is going to speak before they think through what happened. I want somebody that's a disciplined leader, one that takes the time. Yes, you can still make a quick decision, but when you're, we're going to add a lot of stuff that we've already talked about here, when you're still making that 2 or 3 second pause, that makes all the difference in the world. An impulsive leader is going to lead you, not just themselves, they're going to lead the whole team in an area that you don't want to be in. Where if you have a disciplined leader, they're more decisive. And it doesn't just reflect that leader, it reflects the team, the people that they have around them. Because you're going to notice when you work with groups like that, in the difference between leaders. When you have a decisive leader, a disciplined one, is one where their team is not afraid to speak up to give proper answers, and not proper answers, but more informed answers, and they're willing to push themselves a little farther because they know they're going to be accepted by their team. They're going to be encouraged. Where if I'm dealing with an impulsive leader, which I have in the past, an impulsive leader most of the time wants to hear from themselves. They don't want to hear from their team. And you're taking away, by doing that, you're taking away resources. And your resources are your team,
Mm,
their expertise, what they
true,
can bring to the table, what they can bring to your business.
true, so true. John, we have some more comments coming in, and that shows people are actually very actively, uh, participating, and we are very happy seeing everybody participating here. Um, RJ is saying effective self-regulation enables leaders to inspire and motivate others achieving their goals while maintaining a positive and productive work environment. Absolutely correct. And then Sarah is saying it is a very knowledgeable conversation as the previous one. Thanks to Seher as she provided us to meet John. Okay, thank you. I agree with the, and then we have somebody saying I agree with Shabazz. Shabazz is who made a comment earlier, so they're actually agreeing with each other in the comment boxes. Then Sarah is saying, as school leaders, how often do we pause to regulate our emotions before making key decisions? That's one question, and then let's see if there is a relevant, like a related question. Yes, stress caused physical and emotional pains, and if the job causing the stress, it also affects other work also, like other people's work also. That is correct. John is brilliant. Thank you so much. John will be very happy to find out that you're saying it. And then Kiran is saying this conversation is more like years of experience packed in an hour. Well, yes, and we hope that you don't get overwhelmed. We hope that you actually get the practical tips out of it, because that's what the intention is. Now let's go back to question. John, ready for the question?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll read it again. As school leaders, how often do we pause to regulate our emotions before making key decisions?
So you made a comment earlier about self-regulation and self-awareness. And the most important thing is in regards to consistency. And when you are a self-regulated leader, if you have a high emotional intelligence and self-regulation, you're being consistent literally with every decision you make. It's just repetition. It's a force of habit. And you find it not just in the area of your professional life, it literally winds up carrying over into your personal life as well. So as far as giving the self-regulated answer, excuse me, a self-regulated decision is you're going to find yourself doing that in every part of your life, in business, every day. What's wrong with taking that? And I put the question to not just you, but the person who asked the question. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that 2 or 3 second pause in any decision that you're going to make in any area of your life. I think that's what builds strong relationships.
True.
That's what builds the consistency that we're all hoping for. And I'm going to refer to, and I've already referred to it a couple times here, and I'll probably keep doing it right through these last few questions, is in regards to, I think it's so important to just keep presenting ourselves to our people and having them feel that psychological safety. I think that's so important with everything that we see that's going on, not just in the business community, but also in the world itself. I think people need to take the time to do that 2 or 3 second pause.
Absolutely. I think, John, the reason why they are curious about this whole pause game is because I know the kind of culture I came from. It always felt that if a leader is taking a pause and if a leader is composing the thought, it's a sign of weakness. A leader has to be like boom, 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 boom. A leader has to be like, maybe in because I don't know, but this is how I'm feeling now, that at some point I felt that I was expected to blast off as a leader, because if you, until you are blasting off, you're not a leader. It's like, if you're a sheriff and you don't point your gun, you don't show your gun, then nobody will think that you are a sheriff. Well, we know that that's not the right model of leadership, but I think the questions are coming from that background where people are thinking, the participants, the viewers, they're thinking, if I take a pause, people will take it as a sign of weakness. But trust me, Sarah, trust me, Hassan, because a similar question was asked earlier as well. That's not really true. And we're telling you, after a very long journey of leadership that we have had in our own fields, like John has had a very long journey of being a leader, and I am like similar in my experience as well. And from that experience, we are telling you, a leader does not have to be the one who's always telling you off, or who is always not taking a pause and is always, trying to provide an answer. Because if the leaders have to solve everything for you, then what are you there for? And that's the question I keep asking, and I keep reminding you, that if your team is not able to function independently, then there is something fundamentally wrong with your leadership style, because that's not why you are a leader. You're not a leader to micromanage. You're not a leader to breathe on people's neck. You're not a leader because you want to ask every single hour what that other person is doing. A leader sets the tone and the vibe and the culture at the workplace, shares the targets with you, shares the vision with you, and then leaves you to, take it forward and design it the way you want. Remember, we talked about executive decisions taken by the leader, and the rest of the work is actually delegated to the team, and also empowering them and giving them the confidence so they can deliver that target, that they can deliver that project. If that's not happening in your team, then there is something wrong with the culture of that company. Okay, so this is very important that you understand. Rethinking, taking a pause does not make you a weak leader, neither in front of your leaders nor in front of your teams or your employees. So you first, that has to be established. Okay, so when we special, please go ahead, John.
That was a perfect answer. It really was. Because as you said, stated it so eloquently, when we have, and I really like when you say that, is that if we don't have our own people stepping up and making decisions and empowering them, then stay home. Don't come to work.
Yeah.
I mean, your job is also to put yourself out there, present your plans, your ideas. Just because the person has the big title on their door doesn't mean, as you said, is the person that comes with all the answers. That person got there not just on their own, but because of the people that they have around them. And if I want to be successful, then I have to take all the answers, that the feedback that I'm getting from everyone. That's the sign of a strong leader, is one that can take constructive criticism.
Correct.
Where most people, and I did smile when you were talking about it earlier. Now, I can remember when I first became a leader. And yes, you thought you were expected. Cool. Somebody said something, I got to have the answer, the solution right there on the spot. And you don't, because you don't want to look bad in front of your team. And your team looking at you like, wow, this person gets a job. They don't know if you're doing, but if you sit there, you devise a plan, you sit there calmly, and your team will take that all into account. They'll watch how you handle stressful situations, and it will stay with them because you're making a strong impression on them. Like, hey, I want to be like Sahir, and how she runs her school, how she handles all her next projects. How do I get on her team? That's the type of leader that you want. You want the emotional, intelligent leader.
Absolutely.
You want the disciplined leader. You do not want the impulsive leader.
True. True. And on that note, there is another tip or another tool that I want to share with the viewers. There's something that I call stop model. So, and it changed the game for me, to be honest, when it came to decision making and taking time to think about pros and cons and everything. The word stop, the S um, is for stop. Interrupt the urge, literally say pause. Like you have to tell yourself, let's just take a pause. And I do that now in many meetings where I say, well, let's just take a pause. And there's nothing wrong in saying that. It's because you literally need to stop. So S is for stop, T is for think, ask, what outcome am I trying to protect? O is for observe, notice physical sensations, clenched fists, shallow breath that signal emotion over reaction or over reason. P, proceed, act with intention, not reaction. So this is what stop is going. This is how stop is going to help you. So S is for again stop, you take a pause, and then T was for thinking, and then O was for observing any triggers that you are picking on, and basically your P is for proceeding, and then you again proceed. So that's another tool that you can actually use. Um, and as I said, I'm throwing all of these tools at you as if these are very easy. Well, actually, each of the tool will take time for you to practice them and see if that actually is helping you. Add to that the decision delay habit. If the choice isn't life or death, give it 24 hours. You don't have to respond immediately. What are we doing for the National Day or July 4th if you are in America? What are the plans for how we are celebrating the Women's Day or International Teachers Day celebrations or Children's International Children's Day on 20th of November or World's Happiness Day? Like there are all those questions. Those are not urgent questions. It's not a matter of life or death. So you can give it 24 hours to 48 hours to plan for these. And then there are priorities that you have to attend to. So if there is something that you really need to attend to, still you can give it a 1 hour pause or a 2 hours pause, because you really need to compose the plan in your head and then you need to come back. Document again what emotion you felt at the start and then see if it still drives the decision later. 9 times out of 10 it won't. That's what I have tried. So let's say there was an idea that somebody gave me, and because I'm a leader I have to find a fault in it, and then I was driven so madly by my emotions that I couldn't see the value of that idea, and I said no, this is not going to happen. And then after like taking a break of 1 hour, once I went back to that same idea, I felt it wasn't bad at all. It wasn't bad at all. So you just have to give yourself a little time for processing these emotions. Humans are full of emotions. So if you are saying, oh, this leader we have seen or experienced, she does not show any emotions, that is not correct. Everybody is driven by emotions. The question is how can you, as John said earlier, how can you use that emotional intelligence to lead people? And my take on it is that if you're not emotionally intelligent and you're just emotion driven, then you can actually destroy your team, and you don't want that, obviously. So make a choice where you want to be. As you want to be an emotionally intelligent leader, or you want to be an emotion driven person, not a leader, a person who can easily destroy everything that has been built over time. Okay. Now, the fourth thing that we want to talk about is modeling calm for teams. Here is the thing: a leader's calm is contagious, but so is their chaos. And even if they're not saying about it, people will get the vibes. You set the thermostat for the entire room. John, I know you have had moments where your calm shifted everything. Would you want to share those moments?
I'm still here. I'm trying to think of a good one. Uh, yeah, actually, I think I've had a number of them. When one part of my job is, and I work with mostly healthcare workers, and I sit across the table from with other leaders of hospitals, and we're negotiating an agreement for nurses. And as we're talking, it's the employer obviously isn't always going to be on the same page as you are because they're there to protect the facility's interests, where you're there to protect, or I'm there to protect the nurse's interests. So in my responses, I could sit there and I could hear something really negative from the employer. And I will bring up something actually that happened a few months ago with a facility that I represent. I actually was just on the phone yesterday with one of their leaders, and we talked about this instance where they said we have nothing to give the nurses. We have no increase, but we want you to come back for a second day to be at the table and to talk again, to talk out more problems. So when we took a little break, I sat there and I thought to myself, and I said it out loud, well, if they have nothing to offer, why are we coming back? And everybody sat there looking at each other because they were so used to just toughing it out. And even if they didn't hear anything, well, we'll still go through why. If the employer is still going to come back with the same answer. And my whole point here is I stayed calm through my whole reaction and I presented the team not just, well, okay, we're going to walk away. It wasn't just about walking away. It was taking a stance. I looked at the information that was in front of me, and the best advice that I could give at that time was, I'm not going to see you on our side waste their time if people aren't going to, on the other side, aren't going to be leaders and help the nursing staff here and give them what they deserve. And showing that calm with the team that I was with, it gave them strength, and you realize, hey, he's right. We don't need to come back here and waste our time. And what it showed in that comments was, I'll add this to it, is I love this expression. I heard it a long time ago. In order for you to be able to get people to follow, you have to know how to lead. That represents so many different things in regards to being a leader, and it's everything that we're talking about in emotional intelligence. That no matter what, is being able to present that calm that you're being able to present to your own people, your own team, to other executives, to people that are in higher positions. They don't look at that as someone who's weak. They look at that as someone who's strong, someone who earns their respect. And that's what the team is also looking for. They want the respect of the people that work alongside with them, or the people that they work for. They want to be respected. So you need to be able to show that calm. And because you might not want to participate in something in that moment, it doesn't mean that you're weak. If you are determined, if you took the time to look, you took that 2 or 3 second pause, and I did take a longer than a 2 or 3 second pause, believe me. But when I did say that, it brought the team together because I remained calm, and they surrounded themselves with that. In turn, they became strong leaders as well.
True. John, you just reminded me, today, remember I told you when you asked me, how am I, before we started the podcast, you asked me, and I immediately reflected, am I sounding a bit distant, or what's going on? Is he asking because he's feeling that I'm not the same like in the same emotional state as I was last time? And then I figured it out that I actually wasn't, to be honest. And then uh, and the reason was that because I told you that today I had like a very hectic day. I've been running around, and for my viewers as well, I think they'll only be giving me good wishes and prayers if I share it with them. I'm actually trying to open a special needs center here in Bahrain for the children, and this is going to be one of its kind center. It's not the kind of center that you will see in the community. Um, I do have a kind of community center that you must have experienced somewhere, but this is different. This is where we are looking at life skills, and we're looking at financial independence of these kiddos who we know if they will go in the market, nobody will give them jobs because of their barriers in learning or their limitations. So we want to create a safe haven for them where they can actually be financially independent as well. So this is a very big project for me, and today was a day where I had to go to the venue, and I had to get some pictures and get the whole portfolio ready for the ministries to give me approvals, because they keep asking for all these documents. And so I had to, like, run around and do these things. So when I came back, um, and I was trying to log in, I felt I was already tired. But then once John asked me that question, I was like, okay, I'm here, he's my emotional support right now. So we can certainly do it. So sometimes you are in that situation, people don't know what's going on obviously in the background, you don't know. And John was struggling with the technology side as well, and he was not able to see me online while I was still online. So I'm sure that he went through the same kind of emotion as well. But then as we're setting an example for you right now, we're regulating our emotions. We were worried, emotion was worried, and emotion was like the emotion that the name of the emotion was worried and exhausted. so so I think we tried our best that we can bring that vibe back in our podcast, and we can share our experiences with you. So this could be one of the examples. I will say, before every high stake meeting, rate your emotional state from 1 to 10. Anything above a 6, you regulate before you communicate. That's very, very important. You can do this through anchor phrasing. Mine is, this moment will pass. And it usually does. Like, you're not going to be trapped in that difficult moment forever. So you have to just remind yourself. Or use grounding visualization. Picture yourself as the anchor in a storm, steady while the waves crash. Pair this with a calm debrief routine. After every tough day, ask yourself, what emotion did I model today? What emotion do I want to model? Because obviously you don't want to model, there are many emotions that you want to filter, and you don't want to model those emotions. You also want to ask yourself, how do I want my team to remember this moment? How do I want my team to remember me as a leader? Because leadership tone isn't what you say, it's what you transfer. It's really the feeling. So this is very, very important. John, you want to add to that?
Which I guess we're back to when we started today. You can't have self-regulation without self-awareness. You have to be aware of what's going on in order
Correct.
for you to regulate. And if you're able to name what your triggers are, what bothers you, then you're actually able to take more control over them instead of them controlling you. And it is about consistency. It is about taking that pause that makes us better leaders, not just in the workplace, but better partners in our relationships with our family, with our friends. So self-regulation doesn't just have to do with what's going on in our professional life. It also has to go on in our personal life. And, when we always talk about triggers, the first thing out of our mouths is usually always the negative. Well, what about triggers that make us happy? Things, people, a situation, people that give us joy, or things that we're doing that give us joy. That's also a trigger. And obviously, we want to surround ourselves as much as we all can, with triggers like that. But as we said, our focus here is in regards to how do we handle the triggers that do upset us. But I also want us to be mindful of, hey, we've got other things out there that make us happy too. And we should also be cognizant of things like that help us, not things that are just hurting us and knocking us down at times.
True. We have a question, John, and we are almost at the wrap up time as well. But I would like to, you know, communicate that question to John so he can share his take on it. This is asked by Rafia. She's saying, what strategies can leaders use to improve their decision making and relationships? So, John, you want to pick this one?
Strategies that you can use to improve your relationships, whether it's personal or professional, is take time with your team. Talk to them about it. They want to be able to look at you that, hey, I can come to them not just with a problem on the job, but also if we try not to, but tell me one time that it hasn't happened. Sometimes something could happen to you that's overwhelming in your personal life that carries over to your professional life. And a good leader has to be able to sit down and be able to pull someone aside and say, hey, so here, what's going on? You seem a little stressful today. Tell me how you're feeling. Is there anything that I can help you with? And by being the leader, you're not forcing them to tell you what's going on in their life because, hey, their personal life is their personal life, and they may not want to share it. But if they see that you are genuinely someone who's interested in their well-being, they're going to sit with you and they're going to take the time. So being able to be an empathetic leader, which is one of the subjects we'll be talking about in the future, is it's one of the strongest attributes you can have to being a successful leader. And when you're able to build that trust by showing people the empathy, compassion that they are actually looking for, it's going to help you in the long run to be more successful.
So true. And I also have to say here, there was a conversation that I was having in another session with someone, and they said that if you are playing this pause game, or you are taking time to respond, or you are always self-regulating yourself before you provide feedback or before you respond to something, eventually it will show you as a weak leader. I do not agree with that personally. I don't, and I can prove it to you. And they also said that, to build the relationships with your team, you sometimes cannot provide the correct feedback to them because you have to sugarcoat everything. I also don't agree with that. And the reason is because sugarcoating is not going to get your team where you want them to be. But the honest, real, heart to heart feedback will. So you really have to spend some time. But again, the trick is, how are you really handling that dialogue of providing feedback to your team member? So let's say in an educational setup, you want to tell your teacher or your admin, whoever, that I have some concerns with your, performance. And how do you have to say, oh, you're not a good teacher, or you're not performing well? No, that's not what you want to say, because that's not helpful. What you want to say is, you want to sit down, and as John just said, that if he was having a dialogue, he would say, let's just sit down and have a chat about your recent performance. Let's see what your objectives are and how you're performing, and how we can support you. What can we offer you to perform better? Because ultimately, you have to remember, this is when you are at work, and when you are with your leader, or when you are with your employees, you're not in a friend zone. It's not friend zone at all, and it should never be considered friend zone. It's a professional setup. Yes, empathy would work. Yes, emotional intelligence would work. Yes, showing care would work. But it doesn't mean that you will not provide actual feedback to your team for them to be able to improve. That's very, very important, that you need to understand. So and it doesn't make you a weak leader, or it doesn't make you look like a leader who doesn't care. If you are providing the actual feedback, be very honest. But to be at that stage where you can share that feedback with all that honesty with them, you have to build that kind of culture. And that's what John was saying. Empathy will help you build that culture. And then people will be more receptive to what you are saying, and it will not feel like as if you are blasting off or you are, you know, screaming at them or you are micromanaging them. It won't feel like that when you have that kind of culture. So this is very important. And then there are, like, small pizza parties here and there, or ice cream uh, day, something like that. You can always have that little fun moment with your team as well. That helps with team building. It actually does. Well, it did for me. So you can try that. Now I'm going to go back to how John was drawing, connections between what we did last time, self-awareness and self-regulation. Let me summarize again as we are wrapping it up. Self-awareness tells you what is inside, okay? But self-regulation decides what gets out. Your legacy as a leader isn't built on how you feel in the storm. It is built on how you behave in it. So here is my challenge to all of you. Pick one of these tools, and let me take the name of those tools again. The pause, plan, proceed, the 3 Ps that I talked about earlier, where I said framework, but it's not really a framework, it's a quick thing. Pause, plan, proceed. Stress audit system and the stop model. Emotion check is another one. So the challenge is you got to go and pick the one that will work for you and then try to practice that for 20 days. And if you are my regular viewers, after 20 days, which is going to be our third Tuesday, I believe, or fourth Tuesday perhaps, and we are still running this leadership series with John and myself. So you can come back and tell us, how did you feel about this tool? Or maybe we were in our fifth Tuesday, the last one. So we will ask you, which tool did you actually use, and did it work? How did it work? What changes did it make? Are you now thinking that you're feeling comfortable in using these tools? Because initially when we introduced the tools you felt overwhelmed, but after trying it for at least 15 days or 20 days, how are you feeling now? So let's try these tools, and that is your challenge. Okay, and we will connect back and we will find out how these tools are helping you. Practice it daily until it becomes reflex. Because leadership isn't about avoiding storms. Again, I'm repeating again, it's about never letting the storm inside you sink the ship outside you. That's very, very important. Okay. John, thank you once again for stepping into this raw and unpolished space with me. And to everyone listening, this was Unboxed with SG. Every system, every title, every rule. Remember, someone built that box. Your job isn't to fit in that, it's to redesign the world outside it. Good night and stay well. See you next Tuesday, same time, with a new topic, but it's the leadership series that we are running, and we are still talking about emotional intelligence. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.